Good morning, tubers. Welcome back for another adventure. So this is the $500 low compression Honda ATC200M. It's 1984 vintage. So what we're going to do today is we're going to find out why it has low compression. Unfortunately, that means the motor needs to come off. My guess, I always try to figure this stuff out before I take them apart. I think they ran it without an air cleaner and the valves are consumed. That normally doesn't lead to long ring life. But we'll tear it apart. Maybe we'll get away with just putting a head on it, or maybe we're going to have to swap the motor out. We'll see when we get there. Let's get going. The first part of getting the engine out, I recommend getting the plastics off. I think the engine comes out this side toward me. But even with that, if you get the plastics off, you have less chance of breaking them as you're jarring things about. Then disconnect wire harness. Fairly easy to do in the case of this motor. There's just not much there. Get the carburetor off. Get the exhaust off, then you start taking the bolts out, and hopefully the engine will come out without too much trouble. A lot of times you got to get this foot peg off also. So matter of just a lot of wrench spinning, none of it hard, just time consuming. Might as well get started. Makes it easier to get the engine off if you kind of tilt it up a little bit, right? These bolts are easy to access. Everything's easier. You always find the surprises. Look at the size of that bolt and that bolt. I think I got a bunch of SAE bolts going where there should only be metric. By the way, do not plug up your breather like that. That's not good for it. You put a lot of back pressure into the engine, which could take out your rings, could take out the head gasket. Maybe that's all that's wrong with this thing. So always when you get to follow up on somebody else's work, you get some kind of ugly surprises. It took about an hour to get the engine out. You could probably do it a little quicker if you don't find uncharted SAE bolts and so forth. Anyhow, the problem's up here. So let's take it apart. You got to get this off again. Remove the sprocket from the cam, right, and drop the chain. So let's get started on that. Maybe I'll set up the camera, see if I can't get some of this on video, show you guys what we're up to. I think you guys could see most of it here. This is one of those big baking sheets. It just makes it a little easier for to keep from losing things. I must have had my Wheaties when I put these bolts on. Yeah, it's just a matter of one bolt at a time, taking things apart. I'm going to keep saying this. Nothing's hard unless you find uncharted metric hardware. Just, nice and slow. Yeah, I actually tightened those a little too tight. I didn't break them, but they didn't need to be that tight. Right, we're taking just the bolt for the advancer, 10 millimeters. Everything up here is like 810. I think the bolts that go on the cam to put the plate on the cam, I think those are 11. They were a strange size. Yeah, I must have had my Wheaties before I did this. Yeah, it's strange. Strange that everything tightened up this tight. Wait a minute. Maybe this... I worked on 2 of these recently. Maybe I wasn't in the top of this one. I was in the top of the other one. Sorry about camera work. What I'm doing is I'm using these vice grips to grab onto this. I don't want to lose that key. You know what? I wasn't in the top of this one. I was in the top of the other one. Look at that. Harvey's getting old and forgetful. There we go. That's just Phillips head that was fighting me a little bit. Now, I've only said it about 100 times. There's that little pin in there. You want to get that out of the way, and you want to get it out of the way for 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is you don't want to lose it. Reason number 2, it's very easy to tear the gasket, the seal around here, if you don't get it out of the way. I'll put the bolt back in. Yeah, I think you guys can see this is going relatively quickly with the once you have everything set up. Let me just double check the camera. Yep, we're on record. Are these 10 or are these 11? They are 10s. What I'm trying to do is give them a little bit of a shock there. Break them loose. Surplus gasket. Okay. Alright, all that's loose. I have a 10 there, and I got these on top. Slide, drop the chain, and it should come up. I recommend putting a piece of wire around that to keep it from dropping all the way in. Right, nobody needs to make extra work for themselves. Let me just grab my 10mm. I just had to collect up some more tools. have everything. So the 10mm right here. Finish it off with the Phillips. Good. On top, this is the wrong bolt. It's a 14 that they drove in there pretty good. The others are 12s. I guess Gigantor went after this one. This wrench probably meant for the torquing that I just did. Try not to drop the engine over the side. Yeah, somebody's been in here over torquing, over tightening things. Wow. Yeah, Gigantor's been busy. Wow. Guys, they don't need to be quite that tight. A lot of times after you kind of break one loose, the others are a little easier. And sometimes they snap. Come on. That one had to feel like it might snap. Yeah, the more one works on this kind of stuff, the more you kind of develop a feel. Kind of can tell when something's ugly. Here, I'm going to put a little PB blaster on that. Yeah, that one, I loosened it up enough where the PB blaster could kind of trickle down the threads. So I got some in there. And I'm tightening and loosening. Because sometimes they, even on the way out, you could be most of the way out and you could get a surprise. Or it could come out with all the threads on it. Yeah, what makes working on these old bikes tough is you're trying to make them better, reliable, good, nice, whatever word you want to use. It's you're like looking back in the case of this one at what, 37 years of amateur mechanic work, and some of that could be pretty tough. You know, as a young mechanic, you got to kind of start somewhere. So you really hate to say, well, you know, don't go near, you know, an old Honda. But if you are going to work on an old Honda, it's actually nice if you use metric bolts where there should be metric bolts, and you know, try not to round everything as you put it in. As time passes, yeah, that had a bunch of gasket material on it. That was probably used during one of the rebuilds. So I'm getting oil on top, which is a good sign. Okay, I'm going to put a piece of wire on this so it doesn't drop all the way in. Save some time later. Okay. Easier to fish out later. I gotta take this bolt off, which will get my adjuster out of the way. Remember when I started this project, that pan was empty? Another, I think, minute, and we'll be looking down on this thing to see all that went wrong. There we are. Alright, a few things. What are we looking at here? First of all, we're looking at a blown gasket. I'm showing you this. Right. So we got a blown head gasket. So this is going to have to get changed no matter what. And well, that isn't helpful. The rings, looks like the piston was done, and I gotta be honest with you, those rings look pretty good. You know, the valves look pretty good, and it looks like somebody was up here lately. So I might be getting away with just putting a head gasket into this thing. Now, generally speaking, even though this is welded and this engine is far from perfect, I'm going to try to keep this engine more or less as it is. I'm going to try not to put parts into it that I don't need to. Yeah, I'm not. Which one is this? I'm just looking at this. Yeah, I'm not gonna put any extra parts in here that I don't need to. If all I have is a blown head gasket, we're gonna change the head gasket. It's interesting. This is the one, right? Yeah, this is This is the one that had the wrong bolt on it, so to speak. I guess that's the, is that the oil? I think that's the oil return. It looks cooked. I don't know, could you guys see that? Looks like it did a meltdown. Alright. So yeah, I'm just making sure I don't have any damage here or damage there. Doesn't look it. I wonder if you look at the numbers on that. I wonder if this maybe is a high compression or something. I mean, those valves or those rings, they're not great. Well, they're worse than not great. That piston's moving in there, right? There's quite a bit of space there. Yeah. Let me think about this. I know there are people who like put oil in here, and they kind of come back the next day, and if the oil's gone, their thoughts are, well, that's where the issue is. This is pretty clean and all. I think somebody was in here. This was also torqued down like crazy. So, normally, why would you over torque something if, I don't know if they were in there and saw the head gasket was bad and kind of buttered it up a little bit, and then torqued up on it to try to seal it or what. Anyway, so we found out why it has low compression, and I would say obviously the blown head gasket would do it, right? So that's one thing. I'm happy the head is good, the valves are good, all that's pretty happy. So I'm good with that. And now it's just a matter of, right, I got quite a bit of play in there. I think what happened is they just gave it a little bit of a polish, a little bit of a hone. They didn't bore it out, and they put a stock piston in with stock rings, and so they did a quasi rebuild on it. Anyway, so there we are. We found out why we have no compression. Now it's a matter of what to do with this rig. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for joining me for this project. I need you all to keep your feet down, your heads up, and get out and enjoy each and every day. Bye now.